Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here. And for this particular event, the little voice inside kept saying, Paloma, speak about light. And I thought, okay, well, how do I deal with light in the context of film? And two stories which are related to film came to mind. The first has to do with a documentary series that was made here a couple of years ago in 2010 called Guyana Pepper Pot. That was one of the first structured programs coming out of the Center for Communication Studies under a project with Ohio University and USAID. And out of that project, which was done in the summer, quite like this program that we're witnessing today, 10 documentaries came out. We were working across boundaries with people who are used to making news, students from the Center for Communication Studies, the team from Ohio University, people who were in the theater, and so on. And what I remember most vividly about that process was when we showed the films, the documentaries, back to the people who we'd made them about, and the subjects were quite varied. They were about nature, they were about ethnicity, they were about social issues, they were about domestic violence, quite a number of issues. The first thing that they said to us is, oh my gosh, I didn't see it like that. I didn't see myself in that light. So the subjects of the documentaries themselves had a kind of reflexive moment, a moment in which they saw themselves outside of themselves, and then they could actually analyze their conditions. And then people who were not part of the documentaries, but who were just audience, like yourselves and like me, they said, we never saw that particular issue in that light. I remember one very gripping story that we shot was about a prostitute, and she was telling her whole vivid story about all the things she'd done, what she had not done, why she had done it. And we had this great struggle about whether to show her face or not, which was ethically not, I think, should not have been done, and we didn't do it in the end. But she was in the audience when that documentary was shown. And I remember she came afterwards and she said, oh my gosh, you know, I never thought about what I did in quite that light. So this is one of the things that documentaries do. They tend to make us see things differently. They tend to give us the perspective of the person that we are making the film about, and they tend to help us to walk in shoes that we would never walk in. And that is, I think, a wonderful thing to be able to do and to do well. The second story has to do with what is now known as Cine Guyana, which came out of this documentary process a year later with a young filmmaker who I consider to be a really huge influence on certainly new film in Guyana. His name is Brian Zam. And we had this small grant from the government, the then government of the country, and we had his desire, having made the documentaries he had made before, to come back to Guyana, and his great love for film. He was an MFA student at the time at Ohio University. And I remember talking to him for over about a 3-month period, trying to work out how we were going to make the money that we had do everything that we wanted to do. Because we had kind of assessed that we didn't have people who were trained, and we certainly didn't have cinematic equipment. And here we were, undertaking to make films, and not one, we were undertaking to make several. And I recall very, very, very vividly, very important thing that he said to me. He said, Paloma, to make a great film, you don't need fancy equipment. All you need is a good story, passion, and great lighting. If you saw Kojo McPherson's film, it's wonderful, isn't it? Right, so Kojo McPherson was part of that process, one of our brightest and greatest students who came out of that process. And if you saw what he did with light in that film, He's not using a huge, big, fancy camera. He's using his desktop to edit with some nice equipment, some software. But he basically used light very effectively to kind of give us that sense of hope, of light, of dark, of hopelessness, and again, in the end, of just being able to overcome. And he did all of that with wonderful lighting. So I think that filmmakers, documentarians, people who work in the visual communications arena have this power to do a lot with very little, and to transform us, to make us think very deeply about things that we take for granted every day. And they are able to make powerful statements about our human condition in a way that we, those of us who are literary artists, never could. And I think this is what is so wonderful about this festival, and the opportunity that it gives to young people who are interested in filmmaking and visual communications, because it gives you a platform to show your work, to learn, and to be rewarded for it. And this is not to be taken lightly. This is something that I never had when I was your age, or else I'd have been doing something very different if I had. In closing, I want to make a point about what is available now for filmmakers, because I think a lot of parents still are in the mode that my mother was in when I wanted to be an artist. And she said, no, go get a proper job and you can be an artist. And so that's how I have these competing scientists, trained scientists, and the other one is the passion, the love for the arts that I still carry with me. But today, we have quite a number of opportunities that I don't believe people really know about. Opportunities for people to have careers in filmmaking. They can make a living, a decent living as filmmakers. And people have begun in the Caribbean and in Guyana to really recognize that this could be a viable profession. Part of what, of course, is driving it is this voracious need for content, for visual content that is really overtaking the literary content all over the world, right? If you look at the figures for the consumption of film and documentary, because of the online platforms, people can look at films all day, all night, you will realize that the world is not making enough films to satisfy that consumption. So there is a niche there, and we have to understand how we use that in Guyana and the Caribbean. One of the wonderful things that has happened within the last year in filmmaking, in training for film, and again I refer to Kojo's documentary, is the Cape Performance Arts syllabus, which I was fortunate to be a part of writing, and which was offered for the first time this year. It does offer 5 subjects in the performance arts, and the Theatre Guild was fortunate to send up the for the inaugural examination this year, 11 students, of which Kojo McPherson was one for cinematic arts. So let's see if he gets a grade A. I hope he does. But really the importance of that is it tells you that you can now get a very high certification for filmmaking, for cinematic arts, but also that people like Kojo McPherson and Errol Chin, who were the 2 who did film for the exam, are now going to be qualified to teach in schools in a structured way. And so it should also give some support to the schools and the systems that are in place. The Center for Communication Studies has on its books right now an advanced degree in visual communications. We have 3 people who are out studying, one with a PhD in citizen communication in India, and her work is really about what we just saw. Ordinary people using video camera phones to make films and to tell stories about their human conditions. The other is Yafet Jackman, who's out of the center, who's doing an MFA in film at Ohio University, and somebody who just came back from Ohio, Talisha D'Souza, with a master's degree in visual communication. So we're beginning to have people who can actually train at the theoretical as well as practical level in the country, and that all is well for anybody who wants to get into the area. Of course, Cine Guyana as a brand is about to be launched in about a week's time as Cine Guyana Inc. And they're there for mentoring, for helping people to market, and as a professional organization that can really bring all the resources that are there together. And I know that they have a junior category for junior membership is going to be open. So anybody who wants to make films and to be part of that organization can be there. Then there is Brain Street. I don't know how many people know that we have an animation studio in this country that's looking for talent, people who want to draw, people who want to write, to do voice animation and for stories. So there's that, and that is also a very interesting development there. And of course the National School of Performance Art, which currently offers a very basic course in animation through Brain Street, as well as a script writing, film writing for film course through my friend Dr. Sita Roth from the Learning Center. And then of course there's the Loyola Festival, which gives an opportunity to young people. So there's a lot going on in film, a lot of ferment that we could use to really make Guyanese stories wonderful, project those, and most importantly to kind of introspect and think about ourselves and how we could possibly make this country that we all love and which we have to inhabit together better. I also wish to speak not only to the filmmakers and congratulating them, because I know that even if you make a film that's a minute long, that is 30 hours, 40 hours, it's intense, passionate, hard work. Even if it's not a professionally made film, it is all still hard work. So I'd like you to give them a round of applause. I'm really, really proud of seeing your work, and I hope that you will continue to do that work. I'd like to also speak to the parents and the grandparents and the aunties and uncles and cousins and friends who are here, who often, when people start out with these dreams, look upon them with skepticism and say, oh God, there's nothing, oh gosh, you can't be a doctor or a lawyer or something. Why you have to go and do this? You can't make a living or something. But those who are here, we know that you would have relented to some extent and supported those people. And I want to call upon you to continue to support them, because it can happen, but they have to think about it in a professional, structured way, and not be, just doing this without thinking strategically about how they can make this work for them as a lifelong, as a vocation. I'd also like to make a public call again for supporting their work, not only in terms of, psychic support, but also if you can give them time off work, those who have, those who work. If you can give them help to sponsor their films, if you can help to speak up for grants in whatever fora you're in, and most importantly, if you can pay for their work. Because if people won't pay for art, then artists can't produce, they can't survive, they can't live, and we all consume what they take. It's really theft. So we have to start to, again, continue the call for paying for work, by buying tickets, by buying the original, right, and supporting what they do online. I want to ask the filmmakers to continue to use their vision and their talents and their passion to illuminate life, not only in Guyana, but what's inside their hearts and in their heads, and hopefully that's something that is going to bring peace, and is going to bring stability, and going to bring love to our country and to those around you. I know this is not a popular perspective for all filmmakers. Some of them who believe in the darkness, but darkness is also something that we need to explore if we are going to get out of it. Those of you who know me know that I do pray a lot, and in many of my prayers, especially when I'm working in my workshops and so on, I always ask for guidance and for light, to be a light in the world, because that's really what I think I'm here for. Try my best, and I like those who are working with me to try to do that as well. Not always that easy. And they also know that I like Martin Carter. So in closing, I'd like to speak a few lines of Carter, one of my favorite poems, to the filmmakers, because I think it captures what we as artists, filmmakers, writers do and should do. And it's from that wonderful short poem called Looking at Your Hands, and it goes something like this. No, I will not still my voice. I have too much to claim. If you see me looking at your hands, listening when you speak, marching in your ranks, know that I look for fire. I have learnt from books, dear friend, of men living and dreaming and hungering in a room without light, who could not die since death was far too poor, who did not sleep to dream, but dreamed to change the world. And so, if you see me looking at your hands, listening when you speak, marching in your ranks, you must know I do not sleep to dream, but I dream to change the world. You can change the world. Please try. Thank you.